was yesterday and going into today, we were all saying, unless someone lands on them, they're just going to keep on playing these games out. Their surge plan is so ironclad, they're going to keep making it to end games. Similar thing can be said now for Fredoxy. So unless, you know, Venom's Trio, which we obviously know they landed Master Meadows this season, decides, hey, we're going to land on you guys, I think it's going to be hard for anyone to almost overtake them. They're going to keep making it deep into these games.
Well, I feel like the obvious thing to predict would be Vico, Veno, and Flixie. They destroy Malabuka's trio again at Lone Wolf Lair, like they did in game number 9 that we just witnessed. And then potentially they do set their sights on the guys above them at 11. Do you think that could be on the cards?
Yeah, and I have to say, we really do need to talk about that off spawn. As much as the end game was great,
yeah,
they wiped them mini so quickly. Like, that must have been so demoralizing for Malabuka, Wox, and Ping. And this next game is going to be a huge test of their character. How can they bounce back from that? Because, you know, we've all played Fortnite. We've all been there before where you do go down off spawn a couple games in a tournament, and it is rough. Like, you know, you start questioning things. And with how great their tournament was going mini to how things are stacking up now and them sort of dropping and falling a bit behind the rest of the competition here at the top. Yeah, I'm wondering how their mentals are handling this.
Yeah, I said it earlier, and that game just proved it yet again. The Vico, Veno, Flixie are making it look like Malabuka's team are now the team that are coming on into this drop spot. They just seem to know it inside and out. Their synergy is unreal at the moment, and yeah, it's absolutely right. Will they now use that confidence to really go on and kick on and hopefully find some more success in these games? Because if there's any team that you don't want to be giving confidence to off spawn and then later on in the game, it's these guys. They play off of that confidence, they feed off of it, and it just sets the tone for the entire game when they do win off spawn. So yeah, they got to do something here, Malabuka, to stop the wrath of this guy's off spawn.
Well, let's see what they do, because game 10 is ready. Let's head to Taco and Takata.
I like what you said, Frankie. I like what you said, because if you do think about it, Veno, Vico, Flixie, they end up, you know, wiping Malabuka off spawn again. And then they're kind of in that first and second battle against Fredoxy, and, you know, they're landing the drop spot that they're comfortable with. Will they make another change? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Taco?
The problem, though, is if they do challenge Mass Meadows, then that means that Malabuka, Ping, and Wox are left to reign free from Lone Wolf Lair, and we saw how much success they had when uncontested for the most part in day 1. Doubt that they want to let that go for free, but we'll find out exactly what Veno's up to here in Game 10.
There's a lot that can happen, but I do believe that at least for this next match, we will have that Malabuka versus Veno once again at Lone Wolf. Fredoxy's Trio, on the other hand, hopefully uncontested and can continue kind of with their first place wrath. But this is getting interesting. This is definitely getting interesting.
It's been building over the course of these past few lobbies, and knowing that there is no point multiplier has been a real separating factor here. These teams fully aware of the fact that they've just got to perform through each and every single lobby. You can't afford a slip up in day 2. But Vico, Veno, Flixie, they just continue to try and brute force Lone Wolf Lair away from Malabuka's trio. And if they have the same success that they did in Game 9, Takata, it would mean disastrous results potentially for Malabuka's team, because everyone else on the leaderboard also starting to play catch-up.
It's like, once again, perfect drop for Vico. Looks like the same for his teammates once again. Last time they were able to finish this fight up quickly, you were mentioning it, but it's easier said than done. That Sentinel shotgun is going to help. Double shotgun, actually, alongside shields. This could be huge for Vico, Veno, Flixie. All they have to do is start aggressing.
Vico wants to be careful, though. Infiltrator, not necessarily as optimal as the Sentinel can be, but Malabuka, he wants revenge. He's sick and tired of what Veno has been doing to his team's odds for wielding that blade of champions. They want to actually get the ball rolling here at Lone Wolf, but if they don't find a conclusion to this fight, it could also mean a third party. Flixie overhead. Even exchange so far. Vico trying to use the thermite now to break open some builds. Both of these teams incredibly low on materials, haven't really had a chance to farm, but Wox, he might be the first one counted out. Ping, Malabuka, they've got to do something to try and play some supportive measures here for Wax.
They're taking too long, Taco. They're taking too long once again. Not a single knock has been made. You can see the trio's kind of creeping on in. I wonder if they're ever going to make that decision after this fight. You know, is it too late? Once the third parties actually arrive and you can see them beside you, you get to the point where, you know, we might not even be able to take this fight, and both trios have to kind of disengage with not a good amount of loot. And so far, it's looking like it's going to be a slow one.
The third party would probably be more of a concern if it wasn't for the fact that Veno, Vico, Flixie, Malibuca's team, there haven't been any knocks from either direction. So you have to be a little bit hesitant if you are that third party, because you don't know the state of affairs for either of these teams currently. So the third party, sure, they're hovering the vicinity, but they don't feel quite confident to strike just yet, and for good reason. But Malibuca just continuing to play the stealth game, continuing to try and gather whatever builds he can. Flixie, heavy duress, he's got to bail out. Malibuca trying to cut him off, but Veno, he'll be the supportive overlook for Flixie. Try to keep Malibuca's team at bay, and Veno also keeping tabs on the surrounding area, fully aware of the fact that this is an open invitation for third parties with how drawn out it's been so far.
Yeah, I mean, we saw on the minimap, though, there aren't any players incredibly close. You have a really glove shoes trio who's kind of like looking, but they're not fully scouting beside Lone Wolf yet. If this continues taking longer, though, it might get to that point. As so far, it is just that back and forth, playing the vault game. Looking to see who can get the bigger trade. Shots come through, nothing connecting.
The problem, though, is that Veno's team has funneled everybody from Malibuca's into that vault, and with the loot differences, Veno, Vico, Flixie probably gonna have to back off temporarily. Malibuca, Ping, Walks still trying to see if there's a clear opening for them to try and find the upper hand at last. It's also, like Minnie mentioned, a matter of pride and confidence. You don't want your confidence to start to waver, and if Malibuca's team can't find some kind of winning conversion factor here, it's always going to be a little bit of a mental game on the players.
They've kind of let them out of the vault now, as they don't want to take that kind of back and forth right on the borderline on the doorway. Both teams just getting as many materials as they can. You can see when you reach this level, these players are constantly doing something. Even if you're waiting for a team, you're constantly farming, you're constantly doing what you can to give yourself that upper hand. Even scouting around the surroundings, you know, is there any other trio creeping up on us? Are we good to take this fight? Are we safe? And I feel like it's coming soon.
The Lone Wolf mansion has been absolutely gutted, though. Holes everywhere, floors just missing all over the place. But that's providing some decent angles that Veno was clearly trying to make use of. Malibuca, Ping, Walks, they know better than to separate. They know that could be the differentiating factor between being knocked or eliminated versus a winning conclusion here. Vico just continuing to pressure. Veno clearing out even more floor space. They want as many angles as possible before they make this approach. But this fight has been going on forever, Takata, and neither side really getting enough damage. Other teams, even if they don't third party, they're still handling their search strategy. But these guys are going to be one step behind the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken that long. The zone can pull far, or even it can stay here. Either option, they're going to be behind. Veno, Vico, Flixie have decided, okay, we got to, you know, we already farmed up all we can here. We've done what we could. I guess we got to start, you know, moving around, doing more productive things. So we'll see how it plays out overall. The fight isn't finished yet, I'm sure. But for Doxy, Chino, and Pablo, though, they have been kind of leaning towards third partying, hopeful when it gets stuck in zone and finding those fights around there. But this time around, it is going to be a surge base.
One of just 3 teams that haven't had to deal with those surge damage ticks. It was a big part of the reason why, too. Their surge-based methods, on top of their challenges at Hopeful Heights, when they don't feel like they've acquired enough surge from inside the base. They take matters into their own hands. They're willing to go that extra mile and find a more direct fight if necessary. Thomas, Panzer, and Uppel, though, definitely being wary as they make their way around Hopeful. And they're also trying to nestle themselves inside of that top 7 of the leaderboard. When you know that Vico and Malibuca's teams are inside of the top 5, obviously it's going to drop an extra couple of spots for the leaderboard, but Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer, they don't want it to be close. They want to confidently be inside of that threshold.
Yeah, and I mean, literally being the cutoff at 7th place, I mean, it's not going to feel bad, but it's not going to feel great, right? Like you said, you want to be a bit more comfortable at this point. All it takes is one good game. Vico, Veno, and Flixie. Vico has been popping off, as always, in terms of eliminations. I mean, he's literally leading the pack in the lobby at 38 elims, and 2nd place has 23. So it's not even close for this trio. I mean, it can consider the fact that they have just been playing around fighting throughout this whole weekend, different drop spots, constantly looking for third parties, and obviously popping off in those end games. But it is impressive. They want to go 4 for 4 this year. They want to not just take home the majors. They want to take home the global championship. They already booked their tickets in Major 1. And to continue that trend, they're going to have to win this major as well.
But any top team would want to assume that they're going to be capable of winning out every single event. You have to have that confidence as a player, because there are going to be moments where you can't look to cruise. And this is one of them for sure, because Veno, he wasn't content with how day 1 worked out for them. Obviously, they were able to get some nice upsets, but they weren't willing to just let Malibuca have his way, and looking for those high risk, looking for those immediate challenges. It's something that a lot of these other teams are probably going to start setting up for Takata, because they know if they are outside of that top 7 cutoff, they only have, you know, we are past the halfway point. Only this lobby and a couple more to go, and after that, if you're out, you're out.
And it looks like Grippe is going to land a good amount of shots here on Marius. You don't want to be going out this early. Venya, Pixie, Marius instantly going to box up, take some shots back and forth. Looks like Grippe, Glepschi, and Prax, though, they want more than just a few tags. Said, we don't want to do the AR shots from afar. We want to get up close and personal. Take these fights for Surge. They see the shots come from afar. They see the danger potential and decide, okay, we got enough for now.
Grippe getting lit up from Lone Wolf Lair because Malibuca's team is still in control of that position. And them being forced to reconsider their approach. That's definitely a pretty tough spot to be in. But it's not like they can't circle back through. Swizzy, Merstache, and Queasy, on the other hand. It's been a relatively volatile day 2. Certainly not the kind of day 2 that we might have anticipated based off how day 1 went for Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstache. But the way that some of these teams have made their adjustments, it's been very difficult for these guys to kind of maintain their position at Seaport.
To be fair, they've played quite similar to yesterday if you just take out the win. If they never won that match, their placements aren't too bad. An 8th, a 5th, a 15th. They're getting to those late games, but they're missing that big game. We know how often they kind of play for those big matches with the height. So I'm sure, you know, we've got this match, another 2 after it. At least one of them, we can hopefully see them take home a VR, which would put them in kind of that range of potentially being able to win. But they're still in qualifying range for the global championship, so you got to be happy about that at least.
There's so much pressure on Pink and Nebs, though, especially when they're witnessing their former teammate Chino holding down that first place position on the leaderboard. Meanwhile, they are just outside of that leaderboard range, 8th. And obviously, I'm with Levin. I love to see a little bit of, you know, turmoil between teams, because it just makes for a good storyline, and that's something that Pink and Nebs, they don't want to let Chino have the ultimate bragging rights.
They really don't. But hey, it's all about that friendly competition. That's an insane stat from Tayson, Atris, and Chicho. I mean, yesterday they had some rough matches. 25th, 31st, 23rd. But now that they've switched up their drop spot, you see top 3 in every game. That's no easy task.
Benno, Vico, and Flixie, though, they found their next targets. Moneymaker, faded, F9, struggling a little bit here. Another team potentially going into the mix, but Vico, Flixie from overhead, just steadily cornering Moneymaker's trio. Benno now holding down another angle. Vico and Flixie pressuring the front side. Moneymaker might get a little bit isolated, and that's what Vico is waiting for. He's trying to get the advantageous position, but Flixie actually gonna get turn and burn, faded and benign.
Oh no.
While Moneymaker had them distracted. And what once looked like such a promising situation is now completely turned against them. Savage, Vidil, and Reason now gonna enter the fray. Benno and Vico forced to just try and escape here. But Moneymaker faded for 9. What a bite back.
When you thought it couldn't get any worse, a whole other trio after your teammate goes down. I mean, I can see them getting out of this situation, especially as you can see now if Savage takes on the fight with them, but I don't know. They're just going to be in such shambles after this, even if they get out. Another duo, potentially full trio, also rolling in from the sideline. This is just going to be so tough to get out of. But I mean, we saw what Malabuka did in the last match as a solo. Even more shambles than Venno and Vico here. So it's definitely possible, but this is going to be incredibly tough.
Savage's team doesn't really want to allow for that to just play out and both teams to kind of disperse. Walks, Malabuka, Ping. They've created a whole world of trouble, though, for Seti and Cammy. Hari trying to see if he can get away, but it's no use. Chased down by Malabuka's trio. So where Venno is struggling, Malabuka certainly on the come up. Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash, they could also be in a spot of trouble, but Foxy, Floodgate kind of set and waiting, making sure that they're healthy before they move out of here. What I wanted to reference, though, is the fact that Vico and Venno, as a duo now, sure, it's possibly still a fight that they can take, but even if they get a knock onto somebody from Moneymaker's team, they're still going to have to deal with Savage, Vidil, and Reason. That might even be what Reason's trio is waiting for. They're just waiting for this fight to pick up again before they jump in and cause even more chaos.
Hey, Savage finally pulled the zone, though. Let's see what they can do with it. Wouldn't be surprised if they get a big game here. It's what they're looking for. They need to push themselves back up the leaderboard. So as Venno and Vico hold on, Moneymaker, the 9, doing what they can to kind of continue with this fight. But yeah, either trio here, if you got the team up at Outlaw kind of looking back at you after this, it's gonna be tough.
Moneymaker's team's just crouching around. Venno hasn't been spotted just yet, but Moneymaker's gotta be careful. For 9, gonna be the first one, lose a bit of his shields. Vico and Venno, though, they're gonna have to convert some of these shield attempts into full knocks and eliminations. They want to extend things much longer because they are below the surge threshold. That early hiccup at Lone Wolf Lair now coming back to haunt them, forcing them into such an awkward situation, an awkward fight here up against Moneymaker's team, and they are on the losing end of it. Venno will fall. It's only Vico left standing, and this leaderboard, that's going to put a big smile onto Malabuka's face if he's watching that elimination feed. And Vico, sure enough, can't withstand. Reason's team has re-entered the conversation and closed up on Moneymakers that started.
Yeah, you called it. They were just waiting for them to take that fight. Capitalized on the situation. Now our second place trio is out of the game. And the whole other top 5 are still up. I might have spoken too soon. Pablo for Doxy Chino in a fight. Looks like it was up against Thomas and his team. Are they just going for back and forths? Do they want to fully commit to this? They are kind of far away from the zone. So yeah, it looks like they need to. 190 below, 215 now. Uppel goes down. Thomas and Panzer have to get in here.
But who is the superior Dane when it comes to the box fight? Doxy managing to hold on. Thomas HD eliminated. Panzer follows with him. And Uppel cleaned up in the fight. Another big 3 eliminations, only furthering the elimination point lead. Gino, Pablo for Doxy. They've had their work cut out for them here in day 2, but they are delivering in these lobbies.
That's a tough one. Being on the borderline of qualifying to the Global Championship, Thomas HD, Panzer, and Uppel literally 7th place now. Getting forced to fight, taken out of the game to the #1 trio. Gotta give props to Fordoxy, Chino, and Pablo, though. They have been doing an amazing job getting eliminations leading up to these end games. Not just looking for tags from afar, but actually being able to convert these fights into good amount of damage, full refreshes, and those extra elimination points. This is what they need to do if they want to hold on to first place.
Just wasn't any other options, though, for Thomas. They were going to fight whoever it was, whether it was Fordoxy or anybody else. It's just what happens when you find yourself underneath Surge. Radius, Venya, Pixie, they're based. They're trying to cut off Chap's team. They recognize the fact Teeny so low. They heard the shields crack, but they want to stay ahead. They don't want to get caught in this swarm of players approaching on the backside of zone. Marius managed to get some decent tags along the way, but not going to lose sight of the fact that they want to make sure that they are maintaining a strong position, leading the way.
You can see just how many players are rotating from this side of the zone. Malabuka walks and Ping. They had a tough start, not having a huge opportunity to, you know, take the original route, get all the loot they're used to, but you can see from the 6 eliminations they've racked up, that insane refresh that they just picked up now as well. They are more back than ever, and based on the consistency from yesterday, I mean, when they were actually making it to those late games, they were getting top 3 almost every single game, so they need that big game today.
Also have to remember how dominant they looked in the low ground while doing so. Sure, their early game plan was all about surge basing and how accurate they could be with those assault rifles, but the way that they controlled frontside low so consistently throughout yesterday's lobbies was definitely impressive. Pink opened up for a peek and instead has to wait for the double revive. Thankfully, Yasin not close enough to be able to actually break through that wall, but it is going to force them to pause for a moment. Fordoxy now with that mythic drum gun. He's trying to make something big happen here on the low ground. And with the way that his team's been playing all day, it's got to be a massive momentum swing after that last fight. And Savage just added to the tally. One more elimination, another one possibly here in Reason. And Vadil left just trying to figure out where to go next. Pablo, Gina, and Fordoxy, they've got things completely figured out, though. Just hold this control of the low ground.
8th zone is going to pull towards the shore as well. You got to think to yourself, can it even double pull towards the zone? Or towards the water, sorry. Is it worth it to kind of play on the land side here of the zone? Demon's Darn picks, though. See that as a perfect opportunity. Malabuka elevating themselves. Pink needs to have a good performance here. With Thomas HD having gotten eliminated, the one trio that's above them, they cannot afford to go down here. It's their shot to put themselves back in qualifying range for the Global Championship. As Malabuka's forced to drop down, gets cracked, but he makes it out alive. Just 32 above, though. They need to find damage.
Pink following suit, though, and Pink is incredibly low, just behind Wax, Malabuka, and Ping. He's not careful. Wax could be looking for the closing blow, but it won't come to fruition just yet. Malabuka, Ping, and Wax now gonna just try to run forward, stay out of eyesight. Vanya, Pixie, they've been spotted and focused by the lobby. cruel as ever for Doxy, Chino, and Pablo on the other hand. Very nice position. Just looking back and spraying other teams on low ground. Trying to wait for a pre-edit opportunity possibly, and blocks Malabuka. They've been so pressured since the start of this 8th zone here in Takata because they're just barely above the damage threshold, and the lobby isn't thinning out as quickly as it needs to be for them to stop being threatened by it, but it's gonna be a big opportunity onto Pigstarm and Demas. It's not gonna net anything just yet though.
Queasy, Swizzy, Mustache up above. We said they needed that big match. Can they make it a reality here? Pixie Vanya left as a duo, one of the top contending teams to take home this whole tournament. They need to get at least a decent amount of points. They don't need to win this match. They just need to stay up as long as possible, at least use up all their materials, but a refresher is truly what they're looking for.
Oh, the bush wasn't enough to fully conceal. Vanya pays the price. Pixie forced to separate now, maybe hoping, optimistic for a drop from either Gian or Robin that he might be able to get a straight tag onto someone for a refresh, but as a solo in the low ground, it's always gonna get messy. Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy though, they've started to elevate themselves just steadily higher. Still not in control of height, so that's gonna belong to Swizzy, Mustache, and Queasy. But if they can work their way through this mid ground, they might be able to just take over and make something big happen.
Doing a great job. This is what we love to see from Pingwox and Malabuka. The chemistry was at an all-time high yesterday. Can they continue that forwards as Pablo is running into a bit of a panic here? He's lost for Doxy, left as a duo with Chino. They need to clutch out as many points as possible. Although Vanya's trio is incredibly low, they still have to put on a performance. Zangi could be that refresh that they need. The chase goes into zone. The shot is not able to connect. Pablo, he might have just trapped himself. He goes down on the hunt, leaving Chino alone.
There weren't many other options though. He just needed to break through, but Chino now is a solo. Every placement counts. They're just trying to build as much of a lead as possible, but he knows there are so many teams kind of just swarming around his current location. And Chino down to his final build. He's just trying to play backside. He's just praying that somebody runs out in front of him who's incredibly low. And Zangi, he picks up where he last left off. Zangi will finally be eliminated here, but Chino, he has to just keep it pushing. He doesn't have a chance to really sit back and wait. Finally gonna be able to utilize that water sprite, but coned up and just trying to stay hidden for as long as possible.
Did a great job elevating himself though. It went up a ridge. Malabuka's left alone. He sees Janice. Doesn't fully take the fight yet. Just 4 builds remaining. As he runs lower and lower, he has to look back now, find these players that are staggered, but a player right into his box. He takes him out. It's Focus. That is a huge refresh. Now with the Siphon Mats, he can get a little further, but with the full trios looking back, it's just making it that much more difficult.
But we're looking at some of our leading teams in absolute shambles on the low ground. All the while, Queasy, Swizzy, Mustache, they are causing absolute mayhem, just spraying from above. Malabuka gonna fall at a similar time. And Queasy, Mustache, Swizzy, this could be the game that they've been chasing all day long here. Looking down, seeing the chaos unfolding underneath them, not even having to apply the damage just yet because Pix and Demas, they're clearing out the low ground for them. They're doing so much of the heavy lifting, but Swizzy, the moment that he drops, he's trying to get some of those final blows alongside Mustache. Mustache just threading the needle, finding tags here and there. Needs to get another one. Volko eliminated here for Mustache. 6, make that 8 in total for this trio. Demas still scrambling, but Mustache, too much damage. He's gonna be forced to pause. It's up to Queasy, but Cringe from behind. Cringe could cause a serious issue, and Mustache loses track of what's in front of him. But Queasy up above, he's made sure to maintain height. Down to his final 2 builds, he'll be forced to drop and join the rest of the lobby.
No.
Darm's gonna fall. Queasy could do it. He needs to just get this final shot, but the Siphon won't save him. Pigstarm and Demas hold on just long enough to get the Victory Royale and steal it away from Queasy.
So close. so incredibly close. Queasy has been playing so well, to be honest, throughout the day. They've been getting to those top 10s, but they haven't got a match big enough to put themselves in contesting range of that first place spot, and he almost gets the 1v3. But congratulations to Pix, Darm, and Demas. Not only were they able to revive their teammate in those last moments of the end game, they've gotten 4th twice today, they've gotten 3rd place, and now they've secured that victory royale. They were not in qualifying range to the global championship going into this match, but now I can almost guarantee that they put themselves in a spot to do so. Frankie, that was insane.
That was absolutely insane. Pixstar and Demas, listen, we love having them in a major final. I've been slightly disappointed to not see them on form so far, but now they come and make a moment we won't forget. Queasy in that 1v3 tried his hardest. It was so close, but you've got to give it to the Polish boys, Mini Miner. They delivered.
Yeah, really nice day too for these guys so far. I mean, you know, going into this FNCS, so much expectation on their shoulders. People were talking about top 3s, people were talking about wins, but they're clawing back into it after a really rough start, and that's what a great team will do. Now they're going to be higher up in the standings. Of course, now their scope's going to be more focused on that global championship spot, but this is a team that we haven't really seen too much of over the weekend 11, but for today, they've been doing really good.
Yeah, look, they've been sort of petering around that line of the top 10, right? And so like the casters rightfully mentioned, that game catapults you into a position to now compete for a global spot, which I think many people expected them to be doing for more of this weekend. And it's better late than never, I guess. Those final moments, though, very eerie. They did so well to get that revive off, right? Because had they not, they probably do just lose this game. Queasy, you know, he was turning into an absolute animal towards the end there. That flick that he hit on Darm was just mental. Like, I was not expecting that off of Queasy, but Pix does well there. He has the edit, the composure, gets the job done. Finally good to see this team making more of an impact in this lobby for sure.
It was absolutely crazy to watch. I nearly fell over my green screen. My background nearly looked very different. I could have broken the setup. I think Levin was the same, and Mini Miner, he was cool as a cucumber as always. We're gonna head to the break. When we come back, we've just got 2 more games remaining. I can't believe it.
Step to the throne, I'm a king, not a quitter, I'm a
Just 2 games remain in the FNCS Europe Major 2 finals, and we know they're going to be absolute bangers, so stay tuned as we discuss what happened in Game 10. We've got to look at the leaderboard, boys. Things keep chopping and changing, but Fridoxi's trio, I imagine, are still at the top, and there you go. It's crazy to imagine how great a performance we've seen from these guys. I have to keep reminding everyone, these guys qualified through the last chance qualifiers, and now they're terrifying everyone in the lobby 11. It's crazy.
This fight here was crazy. I talked about how it doesn't feel like anybody can really stop these guys from getting to endgame. Thomas HD's team tried and failed because these guys just would not give up on this game. Even towards the end here, right, we see Fridoxi and Pablo go down, and it was all up to Chino to try clutch it up. He was in 12th place at that point. He clutches a top 5 mini. These guys want the FNCS win, and they want it bad. They are playing out of their minds right now.
So good. I mean, so confident as well. Every single time these guys get into a fight, it's almost like when Vico Veno Flixi get into a fight, you're like, yeah, they're going to win this. Yeah, they'll roll through this team. And they do, more often than not. And it's just working out so well for them. You mentioned it, the Chino clutch, absolutely fantastic. And that's what you need from your fraggers in the trio. You need them to be making those plays and keeping yourselves afloat at the top of the leaderboard. It's now just about whether they will stay uncontested. That's got to be the question.
I wonder if Vico, Vanny, and Flixi are going to come their way. But I mean, the fact that those 2 trios that are currently heading to Lone Wolf Lair are constantly contesting each other and kind of getting 1-1 apiece each time that we see them, or every other game, I should say, that we see them. It will be interesting to see if Veno decides to change track. We've got to talk about Marius, Pixie, and Vanya, though, because this is a trio that really need to kind of, I guess, try and maintain their consistency in their end game to try and maintain as high a placement as possible. They lasted until the 13th the 13th spot, I should say, 11. Sorry, the pressure is getting to me. I don't know about these guys. Do you think that they can have another great game? Is it in them?
I mean, yeah, for sure. This wasn't their greatest game, though, right? As you know, we've seen them have plenty of better games. They've won so many games this weekend, but this one wasn't their strongest. And it's tough that it wasn't their strongest because their biggest competitors now sort of came out and really had a great game in Chino's trio. This is the team that we sort of have to look at. If you're not supporting, you know, Chino's trio to go and win the whole thing, right? Like, you're looking at Vanya, Pixie, and Marius as the ones because, yes, Malibuca's trio is above them, and yes, Vico's trio is right behind, but we know those 2 teams are fighting against each other. Really and truly, when you're looking at the 2 teams who, like, have a, more clear path to competing against Chino's trio, it's going to be Vanya, it's going to be Swizzy, Queasy, and Mustache, but they're both, near about 100 points away, right? Slightly less for Vanya's trio mini. So with 2 games left, it's not impossible to close that gap, but it's starting to look like, another good game for Chino, and they might just wrap this thing up.
Yeah,
it's also looking like many minors. Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to discuss Malibuca with you quickly. I just mentioned it's kind of back and forth between him and Veno's trio on the leaderboard right now, and currently Malibuca's looking like he's finding that consistency from yesterday, potentially, as we head into these last 2 games.
Yeah, much different complexion to this off spawn as well. We saw a little bit more of a stalemate. We saw both teams sort of disengage, or at least Vico and Flixi disengage, leaving the drop spot for Wox, Malibuca, and Ping. And that's kind of playing into their favor. I think they're not going to want those sort of quick fights off spawn. It's not going to work out for them. And they have the capability in endgame. We saw it throughout the entire day yesterday, 11. So there's no reason why they can't do it when they get to the endgame. Ultimately, though, we've spoken about it all day. It's just making that off spawn work, making it count, and then making it to endgame as a trio.
I want to ask a quick question, Levin. If Veno's trio were not contesting Mali's trio at Lone Wolf Lair, would Malibuca still be in the #1 spot?
Oh, I think you'd have to say so, right? With just how well they played yesterday and how they've still been able to get something out of these games where there's been a stalemate or, things haven't quite gone their way. And it's still close, right? With everything that they've gone through today, it's still close at the top of the leaderboard there, Mini.
Yeah, I mean, they had a 32nd and a 30th today and a 15th, and they're still not that far away from first place. So, you know, if it wasn't for the consistency of Frodoxy's team, we'd be saying this is a team that definitely can pull back that lead. But, you know, can they do it? Will they switch drop spots? Will they keep going there? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, we don't have to wait much longer because it's time for game number 11.
We are right here on the cusp of determining who's actually going to be the team wielding that Blade of Champions, Takada. And with game 11 on the horizon, so many of these teams that are just trying to last minute scramble their way up that leaderboard.
Yeah, we're getting closer and closer. There's a few things to keep your eyes on, right? It's who's going to end up getting first and who's in that currently top 7, which will qualify you to the Global Championships. Now, I'm also thinking, okay, Vico, Veno, Flixie, they've been landing on Malabuka all day. First place is now for Doxy by a bit. Will they change it up? Well, let's see, because game 11 is ready to go.
And Veno's trio has been put in a pretty difficult position because if they want to challenge Mass Meadows and try to shut down what's been going so well for Frodoxy's team, they leave open Lone Wolf Lair for Malabuka's team to then prosper off of. So for them, they're likely just going to commit to that off-spawn contest, but they know without a shadow of a doubt in their mind now, if they don't confirm those early elims when they do go for that 50-50 contest, it's typically been more so in Malabuka's team's favor.
I mean, that's the main issue. If you end up switching it up now, it's just not where you want to be, but it looks like they're going for an all-out pickaxe battle. Vico is going to be the loser in this case. Veno Flixie now left to play it out as a duo. Could this be the first match that Malabuka and his trio clean this one up quickly?
Veno and Flixie immediately fall back, though, to try and provide a little bit of cover support, but Ping doing what he can to prevent this double revive. Still, it won't be enough. And Vico actually did get some of the goods before he was pickaxed down. Veno, Flixie, Vico. Now a very awkward approach here for Ping. Doesn't want to get double teamed, so he's opting to just fall back.
Interesting start. To be fair, I mean, it looks quite even now once again, but they saw what happened when the match took a while to kind of, well, I guess,
of resources for Flixie, Veno, and Vico, but Malabuka and them might decide to just hold them inside of the vault. No, they have other intentions. They're just gonna leave. They don't want a part of Lone Wolf any longer. They're gonna give up their POI and try to find success elsewhere. And we've seen them do it in the 2 lobbies that they have made it from the off spawn. So can
place, but top 4 at least. And their first match where they didn't get a top 4 was this most recent match. And now if they fall once again, that whole comeback that they started doing might fall. But Ivan, how do you not win those? Chicho is now left in a 1v2. He's got the chug. He's got a bit of mats. Is it a possibility though, Taco? Can he make a dream come true?
If you're gonna step to some of the best, you best step correct. And Chicho, that put down onto Ivan. Now seeing if he can have similar luck up against Cade, but 2 versus 1. Surely this goes the way of Cade and Aryan. Still, Chicho not making it easy, working his way around these builds. He's got both of them in his sights, but doesn't find the immediate knock. Maybe if he'd gotten one of the 2 from that last shot, there might have been a glimmer of hope, but instead, that's going to be a shutdown for it. Tayson, Chicho, and Atris. They're going to have to wait out for that Game 12 battle bus to try and build their position on that leaderboard.
I had faith, to be honest. I had faith. After that first elim, I was like, okay, I see you. As we go back over to Chino, Pablo, and Frodoxy, luckily enough, they are uncontested once again, so en route to continue with their lead for first place. Savage, Vidil, and Reason, they were able to pick up a bit of eliminations in the last match, but ended up getting elimed before that late game. So if they get snuck up on this time around, it's going to be tough. Savage is completely alone here.
Oh,
if
he
Pablo
has no
gets a
idea.
beam, yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I hope you make the right decision on where to walk to next here, Savage.
Oh,
Playing
Mr.
safe, though.
Savage. Please. You don't want it. Not like
no.
this,
Not
right?
this
Not
way.
like this. This is not the way that we want to see Savage leave this lobby, and still seemingly unaware of the dangers that are directly next to him. Chino, Pablo, creeping. Slight sprint, then back to creeping up onto Savage's current position. You can feel the 3-2-1 building. Savage, he just wanted the mats, loses a good chunk of his shield instead, trying to scurry on out of here, but Chino with the cutoff. That Sub-Zero kit doing him a huge favor. Now jumping immediately on top of Savage's head, and Chino, he's just trying to make sure that he can confirm. And sure enough, Savage will fall. Reason and Vidil are now going to be forced to disengage entirely. Have to play through the reboot too. It's tough scenes.
For Pablo, for Doxy, and Chino, they've done a great job finding these eliminations early. I mean, they're not opting to just kind of go for that surge-based strategy. They have been playing aggressive and looking for those full-on eliminations. Now they've picked off one. They can, you know, choose. Do they want to hunt the duo, or do they just want to continue with their loot path? Also depends on how these zones pull. But Reason, as you can see, is making a bit of a statement here. And hey, come on up if you want, but I'll be ready.
But he has to spend so much time waiting, and they will get the reboot off almost immediately. But Savage has to start all over. He had just invested a decent amount of the early game towards looting up that armored van, trying to get some materials from Southern Pines area, and right back to square one from that jump scare that Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy decided to produce.
Yeah, it's tough. That's honestly tough. Ended up being kind of like a loot llama there in the end. Have to do it all over again. But hey, at least, you know, they're back in the game, and they can... Could be a lot worse, right? We've seen worse matches been, you know, come back from, especially what we saw from Malabuka and Vico's battles, still being able to make it. So Vanya, Marius, and Pixie have been uncontested throughout this whole weekend, which has benefited them heavily. Also, you know, their north zones might have helped a little bit, but they're still not in that first place. Not only do they want the qualifying spot, but being in third right now, they want to see what they can do to hold that and potentially even, you know, surpass the Malabuka, the Ferdoxy. But they will need a big game if they want to get first. With the amount of points that now Ferdoxy, Pablo, Chino are leading by, it's going to be a lot more difficult to catch up to them.
Take a look at what's building in Magic Mosses, though. Veno's team likely just trying to get control of this black market. It's located nearby. They'll have to deal with Sandguild first, though. It's threatening. A little bit further north of where Veno's team is boxed. And they're not the only ones either. Plenty of traffic surrounding Magic Mosses right now. Vico trying to keep a lookout as best as possible. But if they spend too much time here, they might get caught in congestion that they were not bargaining for. But they love a good fight. They're definitely a scrappy team, and they're a team that knows how to close those fights too.
And over once again at the Pablo, Chino, Ferdoxy versus Savage, Vidil, and Reason. They're getting up close and personal once again, trying to get the back-to-back, the 2 times. Sneaky play. Be difficult to be successful again. I mean, hopefully Vidil, Reason, and Savage are kind of looking out for that.
They've definitely got their surge bases on top of the mountain span, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be completely safe, especially if they have no idea that Pablo, Chino, Ferdoxy are just crouch walking all around this tunnel area. Certainly being cautious, though. They really just want to steal the van and go. That seems to be their primary intention. And now, with it being on the move, it does appear like Reason, Savage, and Vidil, they don't want to let their ride go, but they don't have a choice. They're just going to have to watch them bail out.
Got robbed. It's all good, though. At least they're still up. Thomas, Panzer, and Uppel have been having a bit of trouble throughout the day. They've been managing to stay just on the cutoff, but I don't think they've even made top 10 once today. Although Walks now is going to pick up an elimination here onto Shark.
It's actually crazy how easy he made that look. Against Shark of all people, it just goes to show. No, Riley, Trulex, Shark, they were not anticipating to have company this early on here at Foxy Floodgate. Ping and Walks still lurking, though. It's going to be a tough duo operation, but the 2 versus 2. It's a little bit more evenly cut. Mustache, Swizzy, Queasy just trying to take advantage of where Thomas's team is currently at, fighting inside of the storm now. They need to get even more points if they want to continue being a threat towards that top side of the leaderboard. And Panzer, good chunk of his HP gone now. I'll have to hope that Uppel and Thomas can buy him even more time. But Thomas is just slow and steady. Might have an opening onto Swizzy, but just short. Turns it around though, and Swizzy will be knocked. Thomas wasting absolutely no time now. Mustache heavily threatened. They've got the numbers advantage. They go from being hunted to hunters, and this is an ideal situation, working their way through Kappa Kappa, because they can continue playing tag with Queasy's team. When they go for the reboot, they'll know we've got this trio right behind us. We'll just trail them and continue applying damage to them every step along the way.
I was going to say, not again. Not again. Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer going down early. 23rd in the last match. Like I said, they haven't got top 10 once today, but because they performed so well in day one, they were able to kind of stay in that qualifying range for the global championship. But they do need a good match here. They're now in 8th, so they are not in that range no more. But, you know, there's the start of exactly what they need. They just cannot throw it away.
They're also going to have to find some whites somewhere along the way. Thomas HG only has 90 left inside of this current Chug Jug. And it seems like they're still scoping out the vicinity, trying to figure out where Queasy's actually gone off to. Thomas, if he's not careful, though, he could be picked off. But Queasy seems a lot more preoccupied with just trying to stay alive. He's not really interested in taking this immediate fight. Thomas wants a faster means of rotation, though. And Queasy, unfortunately, can't. Oh, he might have just found Niels right at the last second.
Good for now, but yeah, it's going to be tough to come back from. Noah Trulex trying to see if they can catch Walks and Ping here. Just kind of snuck in the corner, but Noah's going to go down from the 2v2 to now Walks and Ping with 3 elims on the board. This is a amazing way to put themselves in the game. They need this match, Taco, and with odds not in their favor, this is a good way to set themselves up.
It'll just be the 2 of them, so it's going to be a rocky road. We've seen them manifest it from similar positions before, even in the last major. For Doxy, Pablo, and Chino, though, they are elevated at Shiny Shafts, just exchanging blows with some teams that are also based up in their Surge Mountains across the way. It looks to be Sky and Marius' teams, all in their separate Surge bases. But things are relatively quiet right now at Shiny Shafts.
All the top 5 trios are still up and running. It's going to make it that much more difficult for the teams trying to push themselves in that cutoff for the top 7. Currently at 446 points going into this match, but with Tace and Chicho and Atris being eliminated, you know, it opens up a chance for the other teams a little below them.
And another one for Pablo Wingu. Hey, you gotta make sure that you're staying up to date with some of your balloon fights here. Okay,
Yeah.
Cringe and Kiruo though, they probably keeping tabs on what Pablo is up to. Pigstorm and Demas, so big surge up leaderboard after that Victor Royale in the last match, Takata. And they are certainly trying to confirm their global championship seed. This is easily going to be one of their best opportunities. They're so close they can taste it.
They really can. I'm excited to see how this one plays out. If you're not familiar with Pix, Darm, and Demas, they played in the first major finals last season, somehow qualifying. And not only that, they got 5th place. From being the underdogs to now top tier competitors on EU, going into today and even, you know, these major finals once again. A lot of people kind of have them on their radar and they're in that qualifying range. So seeing them in the global championship would be amazing.
Still a bit ridiculous, though, to think. We're checking back in with Marius's team, and they've got 3 victory royales in total across this weekend, Takata, and yet they are still in that 3rd place position on the leaderboard heading into this 11th lobby, and you just know that they want the extra 2 spots up ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they were 1 spot off qualifying in Major 1, literally 3rd place when the top 2 qualified. They had a 12% win rate in the Div Cup finals. They know how to win matches. They can win those matches, but they've been lacking in, you know, the constant top 10s, the constant top 5s. But those wins have been helping them, you know, keep themselves and planting themselves in qualifying range to the global championship. But, you know, they want more than that. They want to be able to get that 1st place alongside it, that Blade of Champions. So hopefully with a big game here, it can kind of push themselves up.
But of course, they're not going to be the only ones trying to get a really big performance in these last couple of lobbies. Vico, Veno, Flixie just rolling around the outskirts of Outlaw Oasis. It's going to be tough for other teams to really stop their current flow, but Veno, he just wants prime positioning. Even if it comes at a slight cost, a little bit of damage, but they're rolling through.
You know, this game, they need to put themselves in 2nd, because we know what Vico, Veno, and Flixie truly want. They want to win this major like the rest of them. And to do that, going into this, you know, 2nd to last game that we're witnessing right now, they need to put themselves in at least 2nd place so they have a good chance of taking 1st in that last match. If they put themselves into 2nd here, I would not be surprised if they land on Pablo, Fordoxy, and Chino in the last match. But to do so, they need to get a good amount of points here. Now, they are above. They've gotten an elimination, but that's just the start. Mustache, on the other hand, Grippe gets knocked down. But so does Mustache, Swizzy as well, and it's all up to Queasy. A huge game leading into this match. Put them in 5th place, but now potentially gonna go down early.
And Queasy is just chasing Clubshy. He wants this so badly. Anything to continue their run inside of that top 5 of the leaderboard. But Queasy, he's running out of time. He's running out of HP. The Storm's gonna finish off what Glubshy didn't even need to do. And Glubshy, he'll be the only survivor from that exchange. Trouble's definitely starting to pick up here, though, for Pablo, Fordoxy, and Chino. They don't necessarily have the HP that they'd probably want to right now, but more than enough resources, more than enough heals. They'll be able to build back up, no problem. It's largely just dealing with some of the congestion piling around them, but they'll get some great shots in onto Faded. They can tell that box fight's getting scrappy. They don't have to get up close and personal just yet, though. They'll opt for the free rotate while those teams are preoccupied. Darm, Demas, luckily avoiding the view of Pablo, Fordoxy, and Chino. They might have actually chosen to collapse, but this team is just full on dead set on getting into the next zone.
Yeah, you got to be careful when the 7th zone pulls to the uncongested side and you know a majority of the lobby is going to be rotating. You do not want to be the last trios to get in. So great job, you know, seeing that and being able to base up quickly. Now they do have that, you know, chance to look back and shoot the trios rotating on in a bit late. Cammy close to them, no shield to his name.
Oh, this is tough for Seti, Cammy, and Hari, though. They're just smushed between Moneymaker's team and Fordoxy's, and they don't look like they're in a position to fight either of them, but we'll have to revisit exactly what's going down over there. Kiruo, Volko, Cringe, they've managed to find a somewhat isolated spot on the side of this hill face. little bit closer towards the dead side. Panzer, Thomas, Uppel, eating a few tags, returning a few tags. Vico, Flixie, Veno, just trying to make sure that they're in a position to take over high ground, and Navahollow nearly going down, but will manage to just stay standing, even if just barely. Veno, all the while, still pressuring onto Noms. Twy might not have shield, but it's a 2 versus 1 that Veno doesn't want to tango with just yet. Height was all Veno was after in the first place, and forcing Navahollow's team downwards means that they have open reign towards it.
Come on, pull zone, pull zone. They pull it. Okay, this is massive for Vico, Veno, and Flixie. They played for the odds. They pulled 8th zone here, but they're below. Please don't let being 28 below lead to your demise when you're so close to closing this out and pushing yourself up that leaderboard. All they have to do are connect a few shots. The issues from the early game led them to not have the best spare shields. They really need to do a bit of damage here. The odds have been in their favor for this match, but they keep on ticking. It's going to be difficult. You can see Walks not in a great position at all.
This is a terrible spot for Walks in comparison to what we're witnessing from Veno's team. And sure, Veno's team just barely above that damage threshold, but they still have all 3 players. Walks has a solo down to his last small shield potion. Feels like it's only a matter of seconds before somebody takes notice of his current position, and sure enough, Walks will fall. But Veno, Flixie, Vico, they can't afford to let up. They're now holding separate angles on height. They're trying to apply whatever damage they can, and just like that, they jump well above what they need for the damage threshold. They can't get comfortable, though. They know that there's still teams underneath them. Could potentially be looking to chop them out. And they want to hold the high ground for as long as possible.
Demus picks Storm, doing a great job, just trying to get a bit of damage in on the players rotating through. Savage, incredibly low, has to be careful as he gets dropped as well. Shot away from getting knocked. As we take a look at how they've been causing disruption here throughout this late game. Tidy getting knocked down. Quick points for them. Where will this first moving pull towards? Is it going to pull towards Kami Sedihara? Is it going to pull towards Vico, Veno, Flixie? And yes, it will. The double pull from this trio. They claimed it, kind of scared Kami away, and now got the zone pullback. So can they hold on? I mean, Queasy's not in the lobby. Vanya is, though, and we know they like going for wins.
Poor Fernando. Sometimes you just see these solos on the low ground, and you just gotta feel for them because it's like impossible to know which way to actually run. Everybody just trying to look for pickoffs as they make their rotates. But Veno, Vico, Flixie, they've definitely got the zone RNG on their side. And for Doxy, Pablo, Chino, they've got to hold down this secondary height position instead. They can't look for a height challenge. Not even sold that they would even want to go that way, though. Their build's a little bit low. A refresh certainly needs to be found. And sooner rather than later here is Pablo, Chino for Doxy, managing to go unnoticed. That is until Chino gets knocked in the process, though. Vico saw him in the final moments, but they have been chopped. Vico, though, won't lose any HP to fall damage. They were prepared for that. And Pablo for Doxy, they've got to put on a crazy performance here if they want to hold that spot on the leaderboard.
Oh, Vico jumps into a full trio. The 1v3, they were out of materials. He knew he had to make a massive play to come back here, but Flixie is going to be able to pick up one. It's going to be enough mats to push them to zone, but are they still holding on? Yes, there's not a single trio contesting them now. They're able to build on in. The zone pulled far, but they did what they had to continue above.
They're full tarping out. Pixie, Marius, Vanya, they'll be able to get a revive off, so they're still going to be a trio intact for the time being. But Pablo for Doxy, they're just hoping that they can get a refresh. They're trying to make sure that they don't fall to polling Demon's Darm, but they get caught off instead by Frenex's team. And now it's for Doxy, coned up, isolated, hoping that Demon's Darm and Pix don't realize where he's at. He wants to see if he can get a siphon tag in, but it's not going to be the case. Runs in straight into the hands of Navahollow, who was just hiding in the backside.
Pixie, Marius, Vanya, we talked about it. We know that they like playing for that victory royale. They have now overtaken the high ground. This is what they need with Fredoxy left alone. Veno going down as well. The whole trio being eliminated. Now's the chance for Marius, Pixie, and Vanya to push themselves closer to that first place spot on the leaderboard. All they need to do is close out this match.
They're just smothering these lower layers with as much suppressive fire as possible. Pixie, gotta be careful, but Tripburn has been knocked. Vanya credited with that one, just waiting for the siphon to tick over. Finds another elimination even, and they just have full control of height. So much material, so much to invest. The world is their oyster here in Game 11, Takata, and they are just continuing to apply that steady pressure. Marius, Vanya, Pixie, if they find that fourth victory royale, and it starts with the elimination onto Giras, the knock gonna be the opening. Pixie with a massive shot though onto Venus, and now Seti just trying to avoid the rampage that Pixie seems to be setting himself on.
They had a tough game 10, but as Marius goes down, the pressure is increasing. Vanya, Pixie now left alone as a duo to try and clean this one up. There's 6 total players. Looks like Cammy's still on low. Shot gets connected from Pixie onto Frenic. Gets the elimination alongside it. Seti, Cammy now, a duo down below. It's a full trio.
Cammy, Hardy, they're all so strong when they play together. But Pixie and Vanya, they're still a big part of this conversation. They still have a couple of mats to play with here. And Pixie waiting for that perfect shot. He's got to be as precise as ever, though. He can't let this one slip. But Seti, Cammy, Hardy, they're not looking to lose another one. They want their victory royale. Vanya gonna manage to jump ahead. Seti trying to run back. Seti won't get away, though. And Vanya, right as we thought that Cammy, Seti, and Hardy might have a chance to close this one out, it is shut down. That dream just slipping away from them.
Vanya said, no heal off for you. Get back to the lobby. Knocks him. Secures the victory royale. This is perfect. As the first place trio went down, the second place trio went down, and Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, with an open road ahead of them, were able to pick up the victory royale to now push themselves closer and closer to that Blade of Champions.
Absolute tragedy, though, for the Polish here. But Vanya, Pixie, Marius, what a come up in this game 11. Frankie, Levin, Mini, tell me what just happened.
I will forever associate multiple victory royales with Vanya in major finals. This one is no different, Levin. Poor Cammy and Seti just having another one stolen from under their very noses. But let's not dwell on that, Levin. Let's not dwell on that. Let's just big up the fact that Marius, Pixie, and Vanya are almost certainly going to global championships now, and they're proving why they are one of Europe's brightest hopes.
Yeah, one spot away last major. This major looks like they've got that job done, but the job is not finished for this team, because I think this is it. This is the contender. This is the team that really stands in the way of Pablo, Fredoxy, and Chino. If there's anybody that's gonna beat them and stop them here in game 12, it's most likely gonna have to be these guys now, Mini.
Yeah, and the way they played this endgame was really nice as well. They had to pick up the revive onto Vanya, which, of course, this refresh gave them the green light to take height there in the end as well. They were just playing height just underneath Vico and Veno's trio there up on top, and they just took it really, really straightforwardly. And from here on out, it only looked like it was going one way right up until the end, when of course, we had Seti, Cammy, and Hari right on the low ground. And to be honest, with the way that Seti, Cammy, and Hari have been playing these endgames and these final two trio situations, I was kind of confident in Vanya, but the way he did it was unreal there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, the clutch shots onto Seti as he ran away.
Yeah.
I mean, Seti's going to regret building up on that ramp and running. Like, he's going to be wishing he would have hidden maybe a bit more. Losing another 2v3 situation is just crazy. But look, focus on Vanya, right? Because Vanya and Pixie, you know, remember in the group stage when we were talking about these guys, I highlighted the fact that last major, when it came to final two situations, they stunk, right? Like, they had like 10 final two situations, I think, in set lobbies, and won only like one of them. This season, they've been much better when it comes to converting in those scenarios, and that's a perfect display of that. Very impressed by this trio right now.
Listen, boys, we need to talk some more. We just have one more game before we crown our FNCS Europe Major 2 champions. We're going to be taking a look at the leaderboard after the break.
life into my place, earned everything that I claim. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow up where you supposed to go. Proceed on the low, can't lose and find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole steady. Vegas don't listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Go riders off my body, cut them off, they acting sloppy. Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes are winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. This is rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. Up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known.
Hollywood ain't got nothing on SMCS Europe, my friends, because we have just got one more game before we crown our winners of Major 2, and it is looking incredibly close at the top. Let's bring up the leaderboard, guys, and see where we're at with just one game remaining. Vanya, Pixie, and Marius Levin, they are, I mean, they're not looking good to take it just yet because there's just 6 points between them and second. But the consistency they've showed today, the ability to pick up those victory royales, makes me think they must be confident.
This is gonna be a cook of a game 12, man. This is what you want. You want the close photo finish, Mini, and we're gonna get that here because Vanya, Pixie, and Marius have catapulted their way into it. Look, both these teams have been fantastic this weekend. Both these teams have so much on the line. The only winner, or the only player who's won an FNCS on either of these teams is Vanya, right? Pixie looking to pick up his first. Marius looking to become the first Danish player to do it, right? So a big weekend for Danish Fortnite. I don't even know who I think is going to do it, to be honest with you, because both of these teams have been so good at making it to these end games consistently, Minnie.
Yeah, and I think what I will say is that whoever does end up winning this will definitely deserve it on their performance this weekend. You can see with their elimination stats, their placement points as well, they're so close to each other, and the consistency that we've seen from particularly Fred Oxy's team has been next level this entire weekend. So although they don't have the experience necessarily, they don't have the experience of being in this position, this is going to be coming down to a very, very close finish, and you have to say whoever does take it will fully deserve it.
Yeah, and when you look at this team in particular, it's such an interesting story for them, right? When you look at all three of these players and the trajectories they've been on, it's been so strange almost, right? You look at Pablo Wingu. Pablo Wingu's been around in EU competitive for a long time. You know, back in 2021, right? Pablo Wingu was popping about. Obviously, he went to the Invitational in 2022, and that was really when I think a lot of people thought this guy is going to be one of the top players for a long time in EU. And it didn't quite pan out from then, right? You know, a lot of people thought Pablo and Bebies had hit their peak. You look at Fredoxy when he burst onto the scene, very talented Danish player. Everyone thought, okay, right, he's going to make that level, make that jump to the tier 1. And even though he's been one of the best off spawn players and everybody respects him there, he never quite, again, put himself in that category. And he just last season didn't even make the major finals, right? And then you look at Chino, the young talent coming in. He's had a great sort of, you know, last year and a half. And he's finally found the formula, playing alongside two people he respects a lot. I know him and Pablo have been friends for a long time and they've always wanted to play with each other. This is the first season they've had that opportunity. And boy, if this is what you get for playing with your friends, I think I want to play with my friends all the time in FNCS, right? That's exactly what he'll be thinking in his head now. So a big last game, a lot of pressure on all these guys because competing for a title in that final game, it is no joke.
The devil's advocate in me wants to say that these guys have been gifted Masked Meadows for free, and maybe if they weren't, there would be a different team in that top 2 right now. However, Fridoxi's trio have been showing that they are one of the strongest off-born teams. They have earned Masked Meadows for themselves throughout this season, not just this weekend mini-minor. Do you think that actually, even if they did have a team dropping against them, they would still be there?
Yeah, definitely. I think it happened in game number 2, right, of this weekend. They had a team sort of like contesting and rotating in nearby. So they definitely have what it takes. They rolled Vico, Veno, Flixi when they contested them in week 4 divisional finals. They have that confidence. Every single aspect of their game right now is looking really, really good. And yeah, you know, they had a really good POI, uncontested vault, black market, all that sort of stuff. But you have to do what you need to do with that loot. You can't just win an FNCS from just getting good loot. You have to make the most of it. And that's what they're doing.
Well, guys, we're not just talking about number 1 here. We're talking about that top 7. We already know that 2 of the trios inside the top 7 have qualified for the Fortnite Global Championships in September, because where are legends made? On LAN. Every single one of those trios wants to make it to Leon. We're going to find out who will book their spot after this game.
It's so intense. Thomas isn't in the top 7. Tayson isn't in the top 7. Pink isn't in the top 7. There's so many of these trios that are not yet in qualifying range for the global championship. The desk set the scene perfectly. First and second place, head to head. Only one player on both trios has won an FNCS. This could be huge for any of these players, Taco. This last game is going to be sick.
Yeah, the top 10 in general looking really close, and we'll see who comes down with the Blade of Champions in Game 12.
It really all comes down to this. There's a few things we gotta, think. Flooded Frogs, Masked Meadows. This is where our number 1 and number 2 trios have been landing. Vanya's trio and Flooded, Fridoxi's trio and Masked Meadows. They've been uncontested throughout the day going into this last match. Will it stay like that? We had Vico, Veno, and Flixi who were contesting. Well, I'm just making sure we're good. Okay, it seems like they are uncontested. Like I was saying, Vico, Veno, Flixi have been contesting Malabuka down at Lone Wolf, so it seems for now at least one of our top trios are good to continue with how they've been playing out the day.
Undisturbed off-spawn scenes, but that is not the case for Veno and Vico. They've got to come up huge here because they've already lost Flixi along the way. They're ready to have their outcome determined so early on. It's part of the process, but for Doxy, Chino, under some heavy pressure, Badil, Savage, and Reason trying to roll through, pay them a visit after what went south for Mr. Savage in Game 11, giving them a taste of their own medicine here. And Pablo, Chino, they're going to be forced to just lurk nearby and pray that Badil doesn't decide to commit any further with the rest of his team. But Badil, he's after more.
Out the air. Fridoxi gets knocked down. They are going to be forced to fight this out. Has Badil seen him? He has not. Pablo in a very sneaky situation. He could be able to pick one off here. He needs to connect this shot. Everything comes down to this. If they get eliminated here, they are most likely out of that contention for first place. They cannot afford to go down.
Actually really respect that reservation from Pablo not to fire. He was waiting until he had eyes on all 3 members from Reason's trio. But Chino, on the other hand, he manages to find Uppel. He was sat hiding in a bush, and that could be a huge benefit for his escape methods here. Uppel was trying to chase Chino, it appears. Spotted out the fact that he was in a contentious situation. But that is going to allow for Chino and Pablo to get out.
That was insane, by the way. I mean, he thought that, okay, Thomas HD, Panzer Uppel, they're in their surrounding range. If they see me fighting off spawn, they're most likely going to, close on in, look for a third party. So he waited at the porter potty knowing that this was a potential outcome and picked up an elimination from that. As now they are just doing what they can to survive.
Just got to get the reboot off, but it's basically just a huge audio cue to all teams in the surrounding areas. Fridoxi will rejoin Pablo and Chino. And when you factor in that Chino did find that elimination, it's a little bit of surge damage. It's not as much as they would obviously want, but this will at least give them the opportunity to farm up a bit and then try to see if they can establish their dominance elsewhere on the map.
6 points is what separates Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy from Vanya, Pixie, and Marius. Vanya, Pixie, Marius had a cleaner start without getting knocked off the start. It's a full Danish trio. I mean, Denmark has made 243 FNCS finals, but they are yet to take home a championship. Veno, Vico, Flixie, or should I say just Veno and Vico, are in third place still, but it's going to be tough to take home the second or first.
And that top 3 position is also a little bit too close for comfort. If you're one of our 2 leading teams, you've got a little bit more of a point gap between second and third, but third through 7th, all of that is within striking range of each other. And there's definitely some prize pool differences involved. When you are Vico, Veno, and Flixie, though, you know that you've got your guaranteed seat to the Global Championship. You did that in Major 1 finals, but they obviously still want to be as high up on that leaderboard as possible.
And for the trios that haven't yet qualified, to the Global Championship, they just want to make their way on in, right? Being so close right now, you have to put on a performance in this match. I'm trying to think even if it's possible for... No, I don't think Malabuka can boop out of the top 7, so it will still be that to qualify, but it is incredibly close in that top 10 in general. A lot of big names still not in qualifying range for the Global Championship, but although Pablo, Ferdoxy, and Chino had a bit of a hiccup to start this one off, they're looking better.
Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy, the biggest issue is they lost control of Mass Meadows after taking that early spill. So they're going to have to try and fight their way back into that POI. Other teams taking full advantage, though, of what's been left over, what was never gathered in the first place, since they didn't have the time to do so because of Reason's team. Mustache, Queasy, and Swizzy, though, coming out of Seaport, can never count these guys out either. They are nestled into that 5th place spot, heading into this final lobby, Takata, but they could still come up with a crazy game in the final hour.
I mean, in last major, they didn't qualify to the Global Championship by 2 spots. They were just 2 spots away, right under Vanya, Marius, and Pixie to qualify to the Global Championship. Although they were looking like favorites, ended up getting contested, and now uncontested. They're in qualifying range, but, they're getting close to that borderline, so they still have to have quite a performance. And I mean, if you're Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, you're in first place here, but you want to get that Blade of Champions. You want to win that FNCS. Vanya has already claimed a few, but Pixie and Marius, they have yet to win one.
But see, Vanya knows what kind of nerves start to factor in when you are this close to winning. And for Marius and Pixie, it is so easy to just start feeling that little bit of hesitation. You second guess every single one of your moves. And so this is where Vanya can really step up to the plate, really be a huge leader and control the nerves of his trio, because Ferdoxy, Chino, Pablo, they're also experiencing probably a similar sensation. This is something that would just really change the narrative surrounding all 3 of these players.
It's almost worse for Ferdoxy, Pablo, and Chino, though, because they're kind of, like you said, playing a little different of an early game because they don't have control of Mass Meadows and now forced to kind of not be as comfortable. They were the ones sneaking around looking for those eliminations in these previous games. It's how they were getting a lot of the surge, but now kind of all eyes are on them. These opponents know where they are. They don't have as many options to sneak up on them again, and it's making it a lot more difficult for them in this last match.
But they're drawing that other team so far southwest, likely because if they are going to have to fight, if you are going to have a team pursuing you for that long, you want to make sure it's as isolated as possible so you don't risk the third-party endeavor. Definitely seemed to be the intent for Ferdoxy's team, but for sure an uphill battle that they're still trying to scale. Hari, Seti, Cammy, inside of brutal boxcars, looking for their surge damage wherever applicable. This is still a 180 performance in comparison to how Major 1 finals ended up for this trio. They're here to remind all of EU that they are still top dogs of the region.
It's good to see them. It's good to see them in that top 7 in qualifying range, like you mentioned. Their major finals performances haven't been looking too hot recently. But, you know, they got uncontested, and now once again, they're part of those top teams. What I'm seeing here, it was Vanya, Marius, and Pixie, and the players that were potentially looking like aggressors was Vico and Veno, so that is not a team you kind of want to fight against. For Doxy, Pablo, and Chino now, though, kind of just getting bullied from above. Their truck's about to explode. They're forced to take low elevation, and now just 2 builds is all that Pablo has. They are quite literally playing this match in shambles.
They have to take this fight now with Chap, but Chap, he might have been a little bit overzealous here. Jumps right into the trap that Fernoxy's team had set for him. He's so incredibly low on HP. Pablo needs to find the closing shot. Svi has now rolled into the location. Canyon crossing, heating up in the span of seconds here. But Pablo, he's got no build. He just has to find the eliminations. He needs the siphon materials, whatever they can find in these final moments. They don't want it to be their last. The nerves have got to be at an all-time high here at Takata. But Pablo, Fredoxy, Chino, they're still holding it.
You saw on the minimap, a full other trio is coming in for the third party, and they knock down Fredoxy. This is the worst outcome from this fight. They did the damage, but they weren't able to close it out. Fredoxy's been fully eliminated. Pablo, Chino now left as a duo. The good news is it looks like those third-partying players have disengaged. They're happy with that 1 elimination. And now Pablo and Chino have to decide. They don't really have materials to run away. They have to play it slow. They already lost one of their teammates, but they know they did a good amount of damage, as they're most likely just going to continue in shambles here.
Pablo will manage to pick up some leftover body loot. Those mats can go a long way for him right now. But they definitely do not want to overexpose themselves. They're willing to wait it out. He has 2 med miss grenades. They can definitely tank a little bit of storm. All they need is for these 2 other teams to leave the area, and then they can begin trying to recoup what they've lost. It's certainly a big blow. It's got to be something that Vanya, Medius, and Pixie are keeping eyes out for in that elimination feed. But Chino and Pablo, they just have to focus on their own game. They don't have time to think about anything else. And Yanis is going to be the one who actually takes out Fredoxy. Strokey still trying to completely cut off Pablo and Chino from leaving.
You know Vanya's trio was licking their lips when they saw on the elim feed that Fredoxy went down.
Have to be.
But the good news is, hey, Pablo, Chino are still up. They're not in a good situation at all, but hey, they're on their feet, so still possible. They're in the zone too. It's not pulling incredibly far, but it's definitely gonna have to be a turnaround if they want to get a big game from this. Meanwhile, we look at Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, and they are just going with the flow, same as the previous matches.
But they're alive and well. They're not just alive, like what we saw from Pablo. And even with Canyon Crossing having cleared out a little bit, they still have to invest so much time just refarming mats, refarming heals. Pixie, Vanya, and Marius, on the other hand, though, max material, optimal loadouts, for the most part, to carry them through these mid-game rotates, and wasting no time whatsoever at Foxy Floodgate. They're taking over. A little bit of elevation on the mountain range. They've got Cammy in their sights, but not fully committing one way or the other. They're gonna sit around and wait, see who actually comes their way.
Thomas HD, from not qualifying to the finals to now being in that contention, the fight for top 7 and a spot at the Global Championship, currently being in 9th place, so they are not in qualifying range, meaning they need a solid match here, and kind of gotta hope that the trios above them don't perform too well.
This is just so big, though, for Panzer and Uppel especially, because Panzer and Uppel took big risks. They left their former trios. that had done decently in the last major to take a chance on each other and Thomas and see, is this going to be a winning trio? Are we going to be the Blade of Champions caliber that individually everyone would look at them and say, yeah, they've got the potential, but to find themselves just outside of that global championship qualifying range even, it would be devastating if they can't outperform where they were last season.
And I love seeing Demas, Pix, and Darm here picking up eliminations. I mean, yesterday, they only made top 15 in 2 out of the 6 matches. And today, they're looking almost as consistent as Malabuka was in day 1. They've made top 6 every single game today. I mean, talk about a comeback. They weren't even very close to qualifying range of the global championship, and now they're sat comfortably in 6th place. So all they have to do is have a decent performance here, and they can go from qualifying to their first ever major finals in Major 1 to now in Major 2 qualifying themselves to the global championship.
Triple a foot though for Vico and Veno, still without Flixie. And Crime City, it's got company that they're not looking for with the iDrops team. But it's iDrop, he's really got to be careful here. Scroll just falling a little bit too low. Vico trying to see if he can close things out, but we'll wait just a couple moments longer. Vico and Veno have yet to find their first elimination in comparison to the Danes carrying 8 of them. But Sky, man, the moment that he fixates, he just has to worry about the team approaching from behind, and it's Malabuka's team of all trios that they're now trying to contend with. And what looked like a promising collapse has now completely been turned on their heads. Malabuka's trio, they are out for iDrop's team here, and they've already got iDrop. Just waiting to see if they can get the other 2. Probably aware of the fact that the double revive's going off. They're just looking for a pre-edit play onto Veno, and Malabuka opening the doorway. Veno gonna be eliminated. You just know that Malabuka's got to be cheesing right now. And it's only Vico left standing. Sky and Scroll, they are going to opt to go the other direction. And Malabuka more than happy to just keep trying to hunt out where Vico's located.
Gotta be a smile on their face. The trio that turned their tournament upside down, now eliminating them in the last match. They are the trio that is directly above them on the leaderboard as well. After those eliminations, they've taken the spot from them, pushed themselves into 3rd place. And with Vico left alone, he has to pray that they don't find him here.
Vico has 1 bandage, and he is running on fumes. Even with surviving all of that mayhem, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to convert that into even a decent position. This is real tough scenes for Veno. But Vico's gonna do what he can.
Now, I love to see Ferdoxy, Chino, and Pablo back in game. Levin set it up perfectly, but I want to reiterate. I mean, Ferdoxy wasn't even able to make the major finals last season. Not a single player on this trio has won an FNCS. Pablo Wingu, sorry, longtime competitor in the Fortnite space alongside that kind of young talent Chino. Ferdoxy has been around for a good amount of time as well, but they haven't kind of had the respect to win a whole major. You know, they'll be on these lists, but they're not going to be the clear winners. So seeing them ahead now in this rough last game, it would be amazing for them to clutch it out, as it looks like Vico's gone down, but he's brought Flixie back into the game. So, you know, they're doing what they can to stay up.
The reboots onto Veno and Flixie, sure, but they are so far out in Storm. Even if they somehow manage to get into the next zone, Takata, they are going to be threatened by that Storm sickness, I would imagine. And I think the only thing that they're worried about right now, though, is just trying to get as many placement points as possible. I'm not sold that they're going to be able to bring back Vico anytime soon, but Proxy, Chino, Pablo, they might have all been able to make it out of Canyon Crossing. The issue is that they're coming out of the tunnel, and there were teams sat waiting, looking to prey upon anyone that might have been straggling behind. And while they will get the double revive off onto Fordoxy, just again, another team that is likely going to encounter some storm sickness issues. And that could definitely impact the way that they rotate in the late game.
That med mist has been a lifesaver, though. They will be able to make it back in, but that's just the start here. They're not in the best position. I mean, they are on a good uncongested side, but there is that trio right directly above them. They have done enough damage, but now they are incredibly low on spare shields. Only a couple minis for Chino. I think it was for Doxy, didn't even have any in his loadout.
They're just trying to avoid all fights. They have zero interest in an engagement just yet. Maybe they can turn around and spray a team that might be potentially more chalk than them, but it's going to be tough. Vanya, though, is the last thing you want to see when you are only 6 points ahead on the leaderboard. But Vanya just barely going to be able to reunite with this trio. Water sprites, every form of a healing resource, not going to be dropped. Gotta make sure that Vanya is healthy enough to fight if need be. But scary scenes.
Oh, no.
Can almost feel your heart stop for them. But Pixie, Marius, Vanya, they definitely got materials. But it is very difficult because the zone has pulled deep into Mass Meadows. And Pixie's just trying to get an overview, some shots back. Trying to cut off teams that are looking to make their approach to their current building.
You know they got to be hoping for that RNG. They've set themselves up for the chance of getting a good pull. They have vision on the whole lobby. Marius and Pixie looking to see if they can claim their first FNCS win. Marius was on the come up recently, especially on socials, you know. This young fracking talent now closer and closer to taking home an FNCS as Fordoxy gets knocked down and fully eliminated. Pablo needs to hit some big shots here. It's on to Savage, also no shield to work with. It's everything for this trio right now. They cannot afford to go down, especially with the position that Vanya and his trio have. And now they're just left as a duo.
It doesn't matter what they want. What matters is what they need. They're 227 below the damage threshold. They can't afford to let Reason and Savage get away either. Pablo's gonna pick up what Savage and Reason had started. He's trying to chase after them. He knows that Savage has been split away from Reason, but Chino has fallen. It's only Pablo with 11 builds. This has got to be the craziest solo clutch. Getting the knock onto Reason will at least buy him a little bit of time. But from across the way in the buildings overhead, Pablo knows Height is staring down at him. He's trying to make it into the building, trying to do whatever he can to stay up and running. He doesn't want to see that second place position end in second, but his team might not have a choice. He's barely managing to find some leftover goods here in Mass Meadows. But Pablo as a solo, knowing that he has to deal with Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, who are just way up above in the high ground. It is a night and day difference between what's going on with both of these trios in our final lobby.
Literal polar opposites. The perfect primed up position you want to be in versus the absolute worst. Pablo has to find some sort of miracle. He got a good amount of damage, but now with the next Storm Surge tick, he has 155 below. Footsteps heard behind him. It's going to have to look for the elimination. One surprise pump could be enough. He sees the fight has started. It could be an opening for him to aggress here, but he's taking his time. Unfortunately, the shots from the back are going to bring him down to 61 HP. Unable to connect the initial pump, but he gets the AR tag. Just one more for the elimination. Pushes his way on into zone in desperation. He needs this elimination, but is going to ultimately go down. They are 2 points ahead of Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, but I mean, the only way that they don't end up retaking that spot is if they all three get shot down right now and Elim to fall damage.
Sickening feeling for Fordoxy's team, but for Marius and Pixie, they can't lose sight of what's practically been handed to them now by the lobby. They're trying to hold down this high ground. They've got the leverage. They know they're not that far, and they just need a little bit more. Just one elimination further. They've got so much damage. The surge threshold isn't their concern. It's just maintaining their position, while other teams like Seti, Hardy, Cammy, they're trying to scavenge these low ground spots, but not a whole lot being given to them, with height just bearing over the lobby.
Look, the lead for first place is significant, but the lead for qualifying to the Global Championships is incredibly close. Pix and Darm just one spot away from being on that qualifying threshold. Cammy, Seti, the ones directly below them, they are literally the cutoff to qualify, and they're going head to head. One of these trios cannot go down so early if they want to maintain their spot. If they want to qualify, they have to focus up.
But Darm, he can't get the layer swap off. He's got Seti, Hardy, and Cammy preventing him from doing so. Seti, Cammy, they just want frontside low. They're gonna actually beat Pix, Darm, and Demas to the punch, and Pix, Darm, Demas now gonna get caught up with Srept, Tripper, but they might have the advantage. They're definitely willing to duke it out in the low ground, but things are getting messy here as Seti, Cammy, Hardy, they've managed to go completely unscathed into this frontside low position. They don't want to allow, they're tarping so much space. All of these builds belonging to them is going to make it so difficult for other teams to try and challenge. All the while, Pixie, Marius, and Vanya open season from above.
They're doing a great job holding on to hype, but I got my eyes on Thomas HD, Uppel, and Panzer. They were 9th place going into this match. They are not in qualifying range, and with their opponents being inside that threshold, they need a massive match. They need a victory royale if they want to secure their spots to the Global Championship, and now is the time to strike. They know high ground has taken shots. This could be an opening for them to retake it.
And Thomas even gonna opt to just chop out height fully if he can get his hands on it. Marius, Pixie, Vanya, though, they know that they're under a little bit of heavy fire. They're checking back onto the secondary height. Pixie gonna drop. Pixie wants to find the challenges in the mid ground, doesn't want to allow for secondary height to look for that opportunity for a clean chop out. But Thomas, head on a swivel, just continuously looking up, not gonna let it go for free. Eats a huge chunk of damage, though. He'll be forced to play the Chug Jug now. He's gonna wait, but Pixie, Vanya, they're the only two left standing. Pixie gonna be dropped. Vanya finds an elimination onto Cammy. He's just grabbing the body loot wherever possible, but he won't be able to get the closing shot onto Seti. It might not matter though. Vanya, Pixie, and Marius have done enough with their current positioning on the leaderboard. Takata, even with Vanya being eliminated, now it's all down. Thomas, Uppel, Panzer, can you qualify to the Global Championship?
This match is crucial. They need the victory royale. It was Darm, Demas, Pix. They were the ones above them holding the spot away. But with that massive pump from Thomas HD, now just one more shot needing to connect. They have done it. The victory royale. The question is it going to be enough points? They came into this match in 9th. A lot of the trios that were directly above them also performed incredibly well. Is it going to be enough to push themselves into that top 7?
Everything is hinging upon this Game 12 performance, but Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer have finally delivered a victory.
Yesterday, this whole FNCS has been a roller coaster of emotions, but that concludes it for Taco and I here in the casting booth, but we still have more to break down, so let's head on over to Frankie, Levin, and Minnie.
Well, it is a great honor to reveal your FNCS Europe Major 2 champions. It's Marius, Pixie, and Vanya.
Let's go.
Wow.
Doing it for Denmark, for Ukraine, and Sweden. This is a European trio for the ages. Vanya, the only previous champion on this team. The first LAN that we'll be seeing Marius attend. And I mean, I just have high hopes for these guys, seeing them on the high ground time after time again. Levin, they really deserve this win.
The 2-time for Marius, for Vanya. Marius finally getting it done for Denmark. I mean, look, Denmark has been one of the best regions, if not the best country in European Fortnite. When you look at their populations and how successful they've been, the most second places of any country in all of Europe, and they finally get it done, and it is Marius to do it, Minnie.
Yeah, he's finally sort of grown into the big shoes that everyone has placed for this man here. And he's always had the hype around him, Maris. He's always had that ability, but it was just about doing it in the big moments, the big clutch situations. And that's exactly what he has done today and yesterday as well. We have to mention Pixie as well. Every single member of this trio, what a performance from each individual right there. An individual FNCS winning performance all smashed together into a trio to just come up with an amazing performance over the 2 days. This is a team that we've spoken about. You spoke about it, Levin, as a team that are a little bit more calm, a little bit, you know, less understated, I guess you could say, a little bit less of a maybe an FNCS winning trio. But what they've done is they've proved us all wrong. They've been one of those teams that just have been able to play out the placements, play consistent, and shown why they deserve to be in the top spot.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Pixie there, because Pixie's someone in particular who, coming into this year, I almost felt very bad for him, because he is a fantastic player, one of the best fraggers in the region. And when trios got announced after Global Championships 2024, Pixie started playing with Queasy and Veno. That was his trio, right? And I mean, what a trio it was, right? To be on the same team, to get to play with legends like Queasy and Veno, and he deserved it. He had earned that spot. And when that trio split up and Queasy and Veno decided we don't want to play with each other, it sort of left Pixie in a bad position for options, not at any fault of his own. He was amazing in that trio. And so I was really hoping he'd find a good team to land on. He got there with Vanya and Marius. They did well last season, but for him now to finally have that FNCS win next to his name, I am over the moon for him, overjoyed for him. Marius and Pixie, two of the best young stars we've seen in Fortnite over the past year, and to see them pick up an FNCS win is just a sign of this new era of EU competitive that we are in right now.
I want us to hold the leaderboard for a second, because I just want to remind everyone watching of the stakes and what Thomas getting a victory royale potentially means for this leaderboard, because he really needed a huge game. And Mini Miner, he and Panzer and Uppel truly delivered, but we still got to wait to see if it's going to be enough. Do you think it is?
Well, they've done all they can, right? You know, you've won the last game. We saw Uppel going down off spawn early on in that game, so they picked up the pieces from there. And overall, they've had their ups and downs, this team. They were looking strong after day one. Day number two, not so good for this team, but the end to day number two has been absolutely spectacular. Thomas in particular, Levin, the way that he's been able to play this season, proved why he belongs in these major finals, and doing so much damage with that, the drum gun, just being a force to be reckoned with for the whole lobby. This has been a trio to watch, and I really hope they make it to globals.
Well, why don't we take a look and find out? The leaderboard is ready, lads.
Ooh,
Look at that top 7. Haris, Tayson, Chicho.
Wow.
Beating out Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer to the top spot. Tayson has had just the most phenomenal day, 11. It's still maybe a surprise to see Thomas just pipped to the post by a devastatingly small number of points, but the consistency won out in the end.
wow. Looking at these teams who have made it in, this is unbelievable, unreal. Of course, you have to look at Chino, Pablo, and Fredoxy. Commiserations to these three, because they have put on an absolute show for us this weekend. I don't think anybody had them on their radar as a team who was going to compete to win FNCS come game 12. Yes, unfortunately for them, it fell apart in that last game, as it so many times has done for teams in many, many seasons. But you cannot discount what they did before that. These three, not only is it like a redemption in a way, especially for sort of Pablo and Fredoxy, when you look at the couple of years that they have had, for Chino as well to be vindicated of his decision, right? You know, myself and many other people were very critical of him when he decided he didn't want to play with Pink and Nebs last season. And now he has proved every single one of us wrong, because this team clicked and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, going into this weekend, they did a prediction. Fredoxy did a grand finals prediction. They predicted themselves to place between 16th and 25th. So not only did they take us by surprise, they took themselves by surprise as to not only having that drop spot uncontested, but as we talked about before, making the absolute most of it. And they've been an absolute menace to the lobby as well. The ability to take these fights, have that confidence, then carry that confidence into endgame as well. The consistency was unmatched all weekend. They didn't need a load of wins to do well. They needed that consistency, and they found it so often.
Yeah, look, I know it's not the ending they would have wanted to have going into the last game, but it is funny because before game 12, Fredoxy actually tweeted saying, no matter what, it's a one-time FNCS for Denmark, you know? So a bit of camaraderie amongst the national men, and I'm glad that they can maybe find a bit of a silver lining, because you're right, I mean, I don't think they would have even expected to have the weekend they've had. Looking at some of these other teams who have made their way in and had great performances, we have to talk about Pix, Dam, and Dimash. Look, of course, Vanya, Pixie, Marius, they won FNCS today. But the best team on day 2 has been Pix, Dam, and Dimash. They were nowhere near getting third going into today, and they have been scintillating every single game, and they've secured their spot for the Global Championships. They've improved on their placement from last season, which many people might not have even thought was going to be a possibility after how well they did last season. This team is not just the real deal. This team is now our best Polish team. This is, when you're looking at Polish Fortnite to come and deliver in an FNCS final, these are the 3 players you're looking at to do it.
Absolutely. They haven't placed outside of 6th today. That has been their day. That's how monumentous their day 2 has been, and what it had to be to qualify them into the Global Championships. And I really cannot wait to see what these guys do on LAN. I can't wait, because every single time there's been questions asked of them, getting into their first major finals last season, placing 5th, setting that record, whenever the lights are brightest, whenever these guys are put on that pedestal of, right, let's see what these guys can do, how can they perform, how are they going to fare, they always deliver, it seems like. And I can't wait to see them under those bright lights at Globals.
It's really refreshing as well to see the maturity on this team already between Majors 1 and 2. Major 1, they were the team that had no fear. They were just going to frag. They were not going to respect the opposition. And now actually we've seen them decide to balance their game out a bit and actually finding that respecting their elders or the more experienced trios has really paid off for them. Can't wait to see how they fare in LAN. Cannot wait to see how they fare in Major number 3. So let's just check out those trios who will be heading to Lyon in September. These are your qualified trios. We still have a few more spots up for grabs in Major 3, but all fantastic names, mini minors so far. You can see who qualified for Major 1, including across all the regions, and we've still got some spots up for grabs in regions such as Brazil and North America.
Wow.
Yeah, still so much up for grabs right here. I want to talk about Tayson as well.
Yes,
you know, the
we have
astronomical
to.
rise of that team as well. The way that they've been able to play. They switched up the drops as well, Evan, right? They switched up midway through day number 1, found some success, had the confidence then to keep on going, and their day 2 has been excellent as well. Would it be a global championship? Would it be a global competition without Tayson? At least I don't think so.
Well, look, it wasn't last year, right? And that was the big story last year, was like, is that our EU GOAT, is he finished? Is he done, right? And, you know, he went over to NA, couldn't get the job done there. Finally, he's got himself a team, you know, filled with Balkan players where things seem to have figured themselves out. Tayson will be back online, another opportunity for us to show, or for him to show what he can do. Chicho was a top 5 player at Globals last year, right? And so he now gets another chance to continue to write his name in the history books. And Haris, given an opportunity, young star from the Balkan region, really excited to see what he can do. And then we can't forget Queasy, Swizzy, Mustache. Look, they might not have gotten the win that I think many of us came into this weekend thinking they would get, but they got the job done. They got the global spot. Still very excited to see what these 3 will do on the global stage, because I still believe that they're going to be a big threat for whoever is competing for the top spot. Cough, cough, Peter Bar. And so I want to see what Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache can cook up come global's time in Lyon.
Yeah, they're such an exciting team, and I think the experience that Queasy's had on that global stage will absolutely pay dividends. Mustache the same as well. They just have that experience already when it comes into these global competitions, so I'm really, really interested to see what they're going to cook up come globals. It's still a long way away, but what's most important for them is that they will be there.
Okay, guys, I just want to look ahead now. Major 3. Last year, we saw so much change. It wasn't just that duos were breaking up and reforming. It's that we literally saw some players change region. And I'm just wondering, do you have any predictions as to what's going to happen ahead of Major 3? Mini?
I don't know. I think I want to see a team like Cami Seti. I want to see a team like Thomas. I want to see those guys really just try everything to qualify for the global championships, because they need to be there as well, right? So whether that does mean moving regions, I don't think that'll be the case personally if I had to predict, but I really want to see those teams start to do well next major, because there's such a big opportunity for them, and to not have them at globals would be a big miss, big shame.
Yeah, look, you know, as panic stations for a lot of teams, I think teams will try and switch things up to find a winning formula, something that works. But I'm looking at some of the guys who actually have even qualified, like the likes of Chino, Fredoxy, and Pablo. Can they now continue to re-establish themselves as a top tier 1 team in the region, not just a one-off great performance? It's happened with Pablo in the past, right, where he's had these big performances and couldn't quite follow it up. I want to see him do it now with Fredoxy and Chino.
Well, we have got an incredible season still to cap off with the Global Championships in Lyon. But before then, we have Major 3 and we have the Fortnite Pro-Am, May 10th. Gallon Center, Los Angeles. Don't forget to get your tickets and get yourself an in-game Axe of Champions, the OG one. You could be swishing it around as you drop from the sky, flexing on your opponents, as we saw many of our trios doing today. Don't forget to stick around. In a couple of hours, we will have the North American Major 2 conclusion. Can Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold pull off the final spot, the final countdown? Can they win, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to big it up. I'm trying to do a Zeke here. I'm not very good at it. That's why I'm Frankie Ward. We've had Taco and Takata as our voices of the games today. 11-2K on the expert analysis. And for me, all I can say is thank you for watching, and let's sound that horn.